right, MFP community, Coach Marco here, Coach Joe, and most importantly, we got Corey Bradford, MFP member. This is our second member on our Just Show Up podcast. So we're super pumped. Again, we're going to make sure we take a lot of time here to really highlight Corey and Corey's adventure with us at CrossFit MFP. This should give you all the wisdom of his journey. So again, as always, before we get started, we're going to get grounded. Just take a few breaths here, take a few moments just before we get started. All right? So just sit up nice and tall. Rory, you too.
Rory.
You can close your eyes, roll your shoulders back, lengthen your spine. Let's just take a moment of reflection of being here. This acronym of HERE is holistically engaged, ready to embrace. And this expressing gratitude for how we all made it to this particular moment in time. From CrossFit MFP being a catalyst, being a space of attraction to bring our member, our friend, big part of our community, Corey, to our space here for our podcast today. Let's take 3 breaths. Take a deep inhale through your nose. Hold. And exhale. Breathe in. Hold. Slow exhale. Breath in. Hold. And let it out. All right. Corey's calm and collective. He doesn't probably need the grounding, but we do for sure. So, Coach Joe, take it away. Give us a quote.
So I have a pretty brief quote. I actually was looking through a couple pages of Outlive, and Peter Attia had mentioned it. It's a quote from John F. Kennedy, so it's an old JFK quote. And it's one sentence. It says, "The time to repair the roof is when the sun is shining." So I think it's just a nice little powerful quote just to make you reflect on, like, when you notice things you need to make change in life, like when is the time to do that? You don't necessarily, a lot of times people will get stuck in that pattern where they wait till the roof is leaking to make change, right? You want to try to address those things and try to make those positive changes when things are okay and when things are stable. And I think it just goes back to this idea of being proactive in your life rather than reactive, just taking a lot of control and ownership of who you are, your well-being, and being the best version of yourself.
I love that. And another important thing to think about is that the sun never stops shining, right? It's always there. It's always that resource for you. So we kind of reframe our mindset to just knowing that there's always light, there's always an opportunity for us to make a positive impact, right? Because that kind of symbolizes a positive vibration, right? The sun and light and energy, and for us to kind of think in that mindset's really valuable. So I think that's a great quote. And we got 3 positive people here, but to my right, 2 positive people. I call Joe the sun guy. There's a whole story to that with Joe having the sun energy to him. But we have Mr. Corey Bradford. When he walks into the room, very similar to the sun, he's there, right? And so that's a very important thing just to kind of understand as we start segueing into Corey and his story for us at CrossFit MFP is he makes a huge impact on our community. He's a man of few words. Maybe when you see him in class or just in general, I call him almost like a gentle giant. But sometimes just your presence and your energy is more than enough to really make an impact of what we do at MFP. So just first expressing gratitude to you for being that individual that's just continuing to trust our process and keep showing up over, oh God, what's it been since 2020?
2020. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So let's talk about that a little bit. Let's talk about, we all know 2020, right? So Corey's contemplating, what's this experience going to be like? What am I going to do in my life? And you have this experience at MFP. So talk to us a little bit about, that first experience at CrossFit MFP and what it was like for you.
Well, I mean, like you said, we already know what's going on in 2020. So all the gyms were closed down for a while, and what I was doing before was no longer sustainable. I was going to like a powerlifting gym, and being that it was 2020, like kids were home and didn't really have a lot of time. I needed something close to home that's efficient, and I'm driving by this CrossFit gym like every day, practically on my way to my gym, and it's something I've been thinking about. I met other CrossFitters at through the powerlifting gym, um, and I was out of the gym for like 6 months after being pretty consistent for 20 plus years. Um, so I went on the website, emailed Coach Marco. I've been looking at his resume, his story, and I saw we had a few things in common. Westchester grad. I know there's other CrossFit gyms around, but I was impressed with what I saw. So tried it out. I think it was on a Tuesday. I did a tryout, and it was I went from basically not going to the gym for almost 6 months. It was like the longest break
Wow.
in
Long
like
time.
decades, and just jump right in 5 days a week, and I knew it was going to be a challenge because it's like they do, the whole workout is it's all my weaknesses. So um, so like I wasn't doing cardio, and we're doing high heart rate stuff like almost all the time. So I jumped right in, and I was like, oh, so this is what they mean when they talk about rhabdo, you know.
So, what were like before you came to MFP? Like, what were your like preconceptions about CrossFit? Did you like have an idea in your mind of like what it'd be like, or was it just like we'll see?
Um, Definitely, talking to other CrossFitters, and they almost sound like religious zealots. It's like it's like a cult, and I would
Yeah.
always kid them about it. And we went back and forth, making fun of each other. Um, but at the same time, I have a lot of respect for it because I know how challenging it is.
Hmm.
Um, and it's also super efficient. You're hitting every component of fitness in a matter of an hour, and that's what I needed at the time.
Yeah.
When let's just flash back to when Corey says he saw a lot of similarities in me. I mean, if you can't tell, we're practically brothers here. I mean, look at the muscles on this guy, right? Smiley face, looking clean. We're pretty much brothers, man. It all worked out. Dub C. But yeah, I mean, I think what's important is just with your reflective is like I needed something, right? I was, you had we just talked about this last week with our CrossFit stories. Us personally was that, we were in this phase of needing a little change or something new, and you have this 6 month period of just stagnant, energy, and you're like lost a little bit, right? Especially when you had this passion with powerlifting, and so for you to make this leap into something where you knew there was going to be potential obstacles and challenges, you continued to show up. So really, like, what was that mindset? Like, your first workout, I mean, I don't know if you remember, it was, I said it was a Tuesday, so it was
Yeah.
probably like
It
a
was a no
moderate.
shoes.
It was probably like a no. Okay, so no shoes, moderate intensity. So something that you're probably familiar with being out of your shoes and into your feet with lifting and stuff. But actually, I remember our conversation because I remember you saying, oh, you had exercise science background, and you felt comfortable being in that environment with somebody. But I remember we talked about like plantar fascia because you had a lot of issues with your
Mm-hmm.
feet, and I was telling you the reason why we were doing these types of things as a preventative measure for so many holistic reasons. But so you had a good experience apparently. So what made you continue to take that step to like, all right, I knew it was going to be hard, challenging, out of my comfort zone, so why would you want to come back to that?
Well, I mean, I dove right in like 5 days a week right away. And I felt great after the first workout. It was hard, but it felt great. And I'm not really a morning person. Like I used to work out like 10 o'clock or so in the morning, and I'm going to the gym at 6:15 just because I gotta work around my kids or doing homeschool now. Um, so that first week of getting up and getting to the gym around 6, it was hard, and then I just kept it going. And I want to get results, so I committed to trying it for 3 months. I got a 3-month membership, and um, I got the most out of that and decided to continue. Um, it just it just works for me.
Where do you feel like over the last couple of years, as you've transitioned to like consistently doing CrossFit, you've made the most progress, like physically, personally, in general? Like, where do you feel like you've grown the most throughout, like being so consistent?
Um, Definitely overall conditioning, my body composition, um, my energy level. I'm not really a coffee person, but I definitely like I get my workout in the morning, and um, I'm like moving the rest of the day.
Yeah.
I mean, that's basically like my coffee right there
There you go.
every day.
I find I think for your journey and your story in particular, like, for a lot of people just to understand is, especially like you see these new results, right? Whether if it's just the energy, right, a way that impacts your overall health and your lifestyle. We have the, obviously people want body composition and aesthetics, right? Those are big things, and performance gains. But you came back, you said 20 years, which I'm really intrigued about, is like a completely different culture, right? Where, for those who aren't familiar with powerlifting, we typically have these three main lifts. We have, squat, deadlift, and bench, and powerlifting general culture of testing. And then you probably have all these other accessories and lifts and strongman, especially with the gym that you went to. You can touch on that, which I'm familiar with, but a completely different stimulus of training, right? And a completely different atmosphere of training, maybe a little bit more individualized, not a group class focused, heavy, low reps, maximal effort. Um, Tell me a little bit about that process and that journey of like being 20 years into powerlifting, and then how, that changed through your transition to CrossFit.
Um, well, we my workouts typically revolved around those three powerlifting exercises with some accessories and bodybuilding type exercises around that. Um, so it's definitely a different mentality, and it's more of a solo endeavor. Um, I have friends at the gym, but we're kind of training alongside of each other. We're not really, um, not really interacting that much except for trash talking between sets. Um, so definitely a different vibe, and you might be in the gym for an hour and a half, but the actual work component in it is probably 15 minutes you're actually doing something, you know.
Right.
So you're not necessarily utilizing all of that time for training. So it's definitely a different mindset there. And also, you know, getting up for, you know, one set of 3 or 4 or 5 reps is totally different from sustaining, you know, a certain intensity for, you know, 10, 20 minutes. So it's you know, it's short bursts.
Yeah.
So it's an adjustment mentally for sure.
Yeah, and I think we definitely see that transition, right? I mean, for you, you're still like what I find really important when you are in the gym is you're very, you know, I think for the most part a mindful mover. And we kind of touched on this in the past few weeks of like how you're very cognizant of your movement, which is something we preach, right? About like how we teach the movement, how we encourage you guys to perform the movements, and you still see, you know, your power lifts here in CrossFit methodology because CrossFit is a holistic approach to fitness. You know, we want to embrace those elements of the physical movement because they have a particular outcome and stimulus that we want to incorporate, right? Having absolute strength. And they are valuable movements, but you're kind of getting them in different doses with CrossFit, but you'll still see some things that like are traditional. Like you might have an opportunity to do a heavy lift, and then everybody sees Corey do a deadlift at, you know, 400 something pounds, and it's super easy and light and manageable, or, you know, bench pressing, all these things. And you do it with really good tempo and mechanics because you're mindful of it. But that change in your journey of like how you used to approach these movements, maybe powerlifting, or just now how you approach, you know, all the overall movements plus the powerlifting. What was that journey like for you in terms of, you know, your mindset change, and, you know, what made you again enjoy that maybe a little bit differently?
Well, what I'm doing now is definitely more sustainable. You know, I'm not doing every lift like it's the last. You know, I'm concerned more with longevity than, you know, just hitting numbers. Um, so I'm trying to think about my long-term health and also not be as one-dimensional and be able to do different things. Like my son wants to play basketball, I can jump in a basketball game and do that, or, you know, whatever it is, I'm ready for it.
Yeah, and I think that's a you know, really important kind of segue into just talking about how, you know, what you do at CrossFit, like, you know, applies to your everyday life, and how that mentality applies to, you know, who you are as like a person or as a dad, or like, um, so, I mean, you gave a couple of examples just in general. Um, what do you think, you know, how does this mentality of like being consistent at the gym, like, how does that, you know, help you in your everyday life? Like, how does that serve you to be the best version of yourself, you know, as a parent, you know, as a dad, you know, as a just as a leader in general?
Um, Definitely consistency is key for a lot of things. Just the way I raise my kids, you know, just want to be I want to be there, and you know, if you really want to see change and improvement anywhere, consistency is key. So, you know, I committed to the gym and been giving it a try, and I wasn't gonna go halfway, you know.
Yeah. Oh, actually, I have a quick point.
Sure.
Sorry, I have a quick point here. I actually think that's a really good point, because like you are such a consistent member, and I think that um, consistency, like you said it so perfectly, consistency is your best, like the best tool, especially because you see it from that perspective of playing the long game. Like you don't walk in here feeling like every workout has to like kick your butt. You know, some people want that feeling every day, but having that mindset of like, I'm here every day. Like, I'm not here to go 100 every day. I'm here to move and like understand, the role of what I'm doing today for tomorrow. So I think that's just like a really good mindset that is a helpful mindset for other members and just people who are on their own fitness journey and, not in just knowing that long game you're playing.
Yeah, I also think the important component of what you're saying here too is touches on something that a theme that we've been talking about the past few weeks, which is how do we use the idea of non-negotiables, which is basically a list or a set way of creating accountability towards your habits, right? So I'm sure Corey has a handful of non-negotiables that allow you to be consistent, right? 'Cause consistency is the bigger theme in all aspects of your life. So, and you can go as deep as you want with this, but like, what motivates you to have these non-negotiables? Like, what's your background to this? Like, is there like a deeper meaning for you to like what drives you? Why are you this type of person that can create non-negotiables and habits and lists and adhere to them? So yeah, just give us a little background and maybe where this originated and how does that practically apply to your daily lifestyle?
Definitely, exercise has always been a big part of me. As far as my mental health, it's it kind of evens things out for me. So I've always wanted to do some kind of exercise on a regular basis, and um, it just helps with all aspects of my life. Keeps me calm, keeps me grounded, um, and it keeps things in perspective. Um, and it also, it's a reason. One of the reasons I get up in the morning. It definitely, yeah, adds some meaning to your life. Among other things. But it's just it's one aspect.
Were you always active when you were younger? Were you like in the sports at all, or like what was you like? How did this inspiration for exercise even begin?
Um, I was always interested in bodybuilding, and
Hmm.
I was kind of casual in sports. I did some stuff in high school and did like a dabbled in powerlifting and bodybuilding in college, but not anything too serious.
Hmm.
Uh, I was always skinny, so I wanted to bulk up and get some muscles. So
Skinny what?
yeah,
Skinny Corey. All
so
right.
high school is when I really started. Like,
Okay.
I went from not really doing much of anything
Hmm.
to being in the gym like 5 or 6 days a week. And
Gym rat.
um,
There you go.
I think I gained about like 40-ish pounds from junior year high school. So like, had pretty rapid results. But I was super consistent. Like, well, at least 4 days a week.
Hmm.
How do you now, like with your kids who are like starting to get a little older, what is your approach with fitness with them? Do you like, obviously leading by example is the most important, one of the most important things you could do, but how do you like introduce something that's been so important in your life, like to your family and your kids growing up?
Um, it's mostly leading by example. I don't really I don't push anything on them. I show them what I do, and if they're interested, they can
Hmm.
take part. And so far they have they're interested in it, and they've seen me do some powerlifting competitions. They think it's cool. Uh, to them, I'm like the strongest person in the world.
Yeah.
Of course. Should be.
Have
Yeah.
to be.
you know, but I'm probably not even the strongest person in Ardmore, but you know, but
Well,
to my kids, it's I'm a giant.
I'll attest. So for those who don't know, we have our summer youth performance camp at the gym, and Corey's brought his son for the past 2 years, and now he brought his daughter in this year. So Teddy and Johanna are, they're pretty consistent performance camp athletes, and they are obviously a wonderful joy for me to have in class. Sometimes I gotta keep on top of them. They might know that I know you, that we're tight, but I gotta keep the line on it. But I think what translates is, one, their athletic ability. There's obviously a genetic transfer of their work capacity, but I definitely see a mental transfer of like them giving effort and consistency when being in that type of environment and being coached, which is really cool to see. So I think that for you is a confirmation that you are setting an example for them to really get into a space where they can learn these things if in a way that they can translate what they do in the camp to whatever sport they want to do if they want to play sport, which is really a kind of that fundamental idea of CrossFit, right? To be able, like
Mm-hmm.
you're saying, to be able to come to the gym and look at the gym from a more holistic way, to where like when you go play with your kids, you're more efficient to do that with them. But another thing that you guys don't, that'd be really interesting to talk about is, how you play a role as a dad, and with homeschooling and really taking your family into accountability, which is really cool. You talked about that. You don't need to go into too much detail if you don't want to, but in terms of like your non-negotiables and your habits, how does that play into your role as like a father? With how you're just consistent with them throughout, almost all their days throughout the week.
I think it definitely helps them to see what I'm doing, and just like from like some habits like brushing your teeth. They see me at the gym every day, and and if for some reason I'm not at the gym, they're like Daddy, what's going on? Why aren't you going to the gym today? Um, so they hold me accountable too,
Nice.
and they help me make sure I'm consistent.
So what is the one non-fitness related non-negotiable that you have in your life?
Um, I'd like to say sleep,
Okay.
because that's pretty important. Um, it's a priority for me, but it doesn't always happen. I have 4 kids, and you know they take turns not going to bed, so um, they know that it's important for me. So um, we're not as consistent as we could be, but
Hmm.
we're working on it.
Yeah. Do you have any other like habits or rituals or routines that help for like your mental health per se? That kind of allow you on a day to day basis, that kind of keep you in a good space. Is it like reading? Nutrition or something? Or just general curiosity to things that kind of allow you to stay aligned.
Nutrition is definitely important for me, but the most important thing is for me is I have some ADD, so I like having a routine.
Mm-hmm.
So um, every day I like to have a schedule,
Right.
um, and I almost don't even know what day of the week it is, like unless I've done something on that day where that I associate with that day, you know. So like um, when I was working out at the old gym, like I had a routine on, like, on this day I'm doing this type of training, and like if I don't, I'm like, I have to look at my phone. What day is it? Um, yeah, routine is important for me, and so that helps keep me on track and helps keep me focused. So that's huge. And you know, as far as the nutrition, I I fit that into my routine. I have kind of I kind of plan my day out or a couple of days in advance, and try not to get sabotaged by the kids, because they they have their own their own
Yep.
plan, different from mine.
Well, you know what's interesting out of this that I'd like to talk about is just what we do in CrossFit in general. Because although you're a man of routine in terms of 6:15 every day, go home, eat my oatmeal, boom, boom. What you do at CrossFit in that hour, though, is actually somewhat a break of routine, right? The variance. And so you have this completely new element of like sometimes unknown and unknowable, right? Whether if it's the presentation of the skill or the way you do it or the workout in general, the flow, the theme, being a member for 4 years almost, you've been through so many different programs and progressions and cycles of like what we've done. So in some sort of sense though, you've had the opportunity to break the idea of what routine is in a very positive way because now you have this new adaptability, this flexibility to challenge and adversity. And particularly, with your journey, I think we can reflect on is like, I mean, it's still hard for you, right? We know
Yeah.
we know, Corey, you're it's okay to have strengths and weaknesses and we can all dabble them out, but we know sometimes the metcons or the conditioning or some things that, are more body weight focused or gymnastic focused still provide challenges for you. But again, you still have this idea of like just showing up this routine to still, work through that adversity. So these challenges that you go through, daily, weekly, yearly, throughout this CrossFit program, do you feel like that's been helpful, even though it's still part of your routine? It's still breaking this habit almost of routine to get you into a more open-minded space of how you approach maybe just the physical world.
Well, it's almost like it is and it isn't a routine because you're there's only a handful of exercises that you're actually doing in the gym, and
Mm-hmm.
everything else is just a variation of one of those exercises. And whether you're changing the tempo or the number of reps, the number of sets, um, you're doing a unilateral or you know it's still variations of those
Mm-hmm.
foundational exercises.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's a little bit of routine with a twist to it.
What is the one, like, it could be a couple, but one or two, like CrossFit things you've never tried before starting CrossFit that like we do relatively consistent now that like you love as part of your training? Like, is there any, like, I don't know if it's snatching, I don't know if like whatever it is, just some new element that's been like really cool for you to try?
Well, I didn't do a lot of cardio before, except for um, if I did more than 3 reps,
That's cardio.
that's my cardio. Um, I enjoy doing the rower now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's uh, that definitely feels good, and it's usually they tend to be sprints, so um, I enjoy doing that.
You're a powerhouse on the rower. You're built for it too.
So that's one I didn't know I'd like, but I enjoy that now.
Cool.
I have a what goes through your mind then, like when you're going through like a workout with cardio and I see it in your face. You're like, oh damn, this is getting hard. Well, I will give you credit. Your running has improved, like especially
Yeah.
when we talked about the plantar fascia,
Mm-hmm.
or running or long cardio. Like you've really made significant improvements just overall with cardio conditioning, right? And I don't want to necessarily say cardio. We say like because there's different phases, and with
Mm-hmm.
like anaerobic, long different time domains, but like just overall, you've made so much progress. And so, just so you know, we're kind of saying all this stuff is hard for Corey, but he's made significant progress in so many ways. But like, kind of what goes through your mind when you have that challenge of like if it's running or something that is in that more long sustained time domain, like how do you work through that adversity?
Yeah, I'm someone that always worked in kind of short bursts. So mentally, I have to keep myself um, keep myself up for an extended period. So that's different. And I still do kind of like speed up and slow down and speed up and slow
Mm-hmm.
down, but I'm getting better at um, finding that pace
Mm-hmm.
and maintaining it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's always interesting to see like the people with different backgrounds who walk into a CrossFit gym, because like sometimes we'll get people who are like highly competitive athletes, like football athletes, and they want to like go 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 so fast. But I love like Corey, you're like you do move very mindfully, and I think that's just something that's a nice thing to say about the powerlifting community. Like you're definitely um, even when I'm like, all right, Corey, let's pick up the pace a little bit. Sometimes you move. I don't want to say you move too mindfully, but like it's a good thing. Like you definitely are. Putting a lot of emphasis into positioning. It's just,
Yeah.
and I think that's just like it's fun to me as a coach to see like the different backgrounds people come from and how it reflects their approach to movement. In the gym.
And part of that's just self-preservation. You
Self-preservation, baby. Well, I love it. Let's segue into something where I had thought of as your coach and somebody who wants to kind of continue our message of the just show up mentality. So for you just to continue to understand our background of how we're trying to present this message to our community is just show up is a more whole being approach to like ourselves as not just in the gym, a physical approach. It's a mantra, it's a mindset, it's a way of being, how you work through things in your life and how it translates to other parts of our life, whether it's family or if it's work. And I think what would be really cool to hear is like what you do for work and how you told me about how CrossFit has been beneficial with how you lift patients and stuff like that and how that's transferred. So if you don't mind giving us a little background about what you do for work and maybe how CrossFit is allowed to just show up at work in a little bit better of way.
Yeah. Well, I work in the hospital, and I started doing CrossFit right immediately after the pandemic. So like after it started. So definitely it was very stressful, and it was really helpful in being in a different space and um, helping me get through that stress and also just keeping me physically fit so I can do my job constantly on my feet. I had plantar fasciitis before, where like I couldn't even stand up without pain, and I was able to work through that. And definitely the mental aspect was huge for me. I've seen a lot of stressful things at work, and working in the hospital during that early part of COVID was definitely a huge challenge. And just the overall environment during that time was very scary and stressful. So having that hour every day where I could take my mind off some of that stress was really valuable.
In addition to the benefit of like the actual fitness component, how has the community of MFP been helpful for you to your mental health and just your overall sense of well-being?
I wasn't used to the community aspect before. That's everybody talks about the cult vibes, and people are happy to be there, even at 5, 6 in the morning, and that was new to me, and also the kind of team aspect of it, where everyone's supporting each other, and that's definitely valuable, and that's one of the things that helps me to be consistent too. So yeah, that's huge. This is a little weird for me because I don't talk about it much.
Yeah.
Um, it's important to me. But I don't go around telling everybody about it. It's like only if they ask, because I could go on for days.
I love it. No, I mean, obviously, this is part of who you are. You're a very reserved individual, almost kind of like stoic, but like in that gentle giant, reserved part of you, which is authentic for you, but, one of the things we do talk about is just like human connection, right? And this is an essence to who we are, and this I'm a firm believer in what we do. Yeah, there's time and place for, like, we need solitude, we need time by ourselves, and the balance of having like-minded individuals to support your journey and growth. But like, how would you talk? Since you were just saying that, you can go on, but like, if someone was asking you about CrossFit, like, what would you say to them?
You know, well, you don't have to wait till your afterlife to get the results.
Right.
You can get them now, and I'm about results.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I definitely I see and feel results. Um, I one of my neighbors, he kids me about it. He's like, "Oh, you do CrossFit," and I tell him, like, I go door to door like a Jehovah's Witness, and I tell everybody about it. Yeah, but it's definitely something I enjoy, and people ask me about it because they can see the results. They can see it. I'm in shape, and they ask me about, oh, what's the program, and I tell them what we do, and um, it's not for everyone. But some people are like, okay, I want to do that. I want to get some results of my own.
I love that.
Yeah, and I think the key is just openness, right? Like openness to trying new things, like just constantly being curious and not closing yourself off to new ways of moving, new ways of being, and like new ways of even just like growing as a person. So yeah, and like you mentioned, like everybody could do CrossFit, but CrossFit's not for everybody. And I think the people who get CrossFit, it has nothing to do with like their physical health. It has to do it's just a total mental thing. Like they're open to try new stuff, and like that could be someone who like you has like decades of fitness experience, like in a different modality, but it can also be someone who has never worked out in their life, but they're open. And I think that is like a big part of it.
Yeah, I would also, what's interesting too is like, if someone's looking at Corey from an outsider perspective, in terms of like how he looks, how he presents himself, obviously looks like he's in good shape, speaks and connects very well as a person. For someone to be like, oh yeah, you do CrossFit, like, you do this, Cole, look at you. Like, that's probably like they have more insecurities and problems about themselves to be judgmental to somebody who, one, you're not shoving it down their face, but you're also just like, you're a walking billboard, dude. Seriously. And so like, that's something, I mean, walking around with this MFP shirt all day, like, I would want to know, like, yeah, what do you do? Because again, that's setting a good example. When you look healthy, you feel healthy, and you're doing all these things. Now, do you have any, I think it's also good. We talk about a lot of the positives, but have you had struggles or ups and downs? And like, what are the things that, you go through that maybe aren't always the light, but you should continue to, work through some of these things?
Yeah, I've definitely had setbacks, and when I was training, like primarily with the powerlifting focus, definitely had setbacks and injuries, and um, but I was able to train through those. And the same thing with CrossFit. I've had some setbacks, but I've been able to still be consistent. Um, I just I just work around it, and um, just keep chipping away at things, and um, yeah, it's yeah, some days are better than others, and um, you know I'm getting older, so I'm doing my best to outrun Father Time. Nobody's won that race yet, but I'm working on it.
Yeah, well, we've had many conversations too about like your knees, elbow, shoulder, whatever, and the idea is like how do we create a relationship to your body when things pop up, because some things are inevitable no matter what you do, but I think one of the things that we value in you is that you continue to like trust that we're gonna allow you to find a way to work with it and then work past it,
Yeah,
right?
and also
So
the preventative stuff too.
yeah, and that's really a big part of the philosophy you've always known is like how do we look at injury not as a sense of preventing, but like how do we manage or again create a relationship to our bodies that become more resilient. So yeah, that's been awesome. We've had also a handful of conversations, Corey and I, like after class, and we'll talk outside of the box stuff, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
He likes to listen to my spirituality conversations and the weird things. So what's your viewpoint of all this with the idea of spirituality? Because you're a spiritual being in the making, or as you are, and I think you have a lot of potential just to show people. But yeah, what's your viewpoint of all my shamanism?
Well, I definitely have a different view of the world. I'm more I'm more about keeping it real, and uh, just like my work, everything's evidence based, and as far as the exercises, it's we do what gets results, and that's kind of how I look at things in my life. Um, Spirituality to me is more just about giving meaning to things. It doesn't necessarily mean belief in a higher power or religion or something, which I'm not religious at all. But it's just like I was saying, like the exercise is one of the things that gets me up in the morning. Just like supporting my family. That's another thing that gives my life meaning. But it's not like at least that aspect of it. It's not magic. It's just that those are the things that provide meaning to me.
Yeah, and I think what's really important with that is that like there is not one set of important things. Like everybody is so different and everybody is driven by different things. And I think like the first step is being aware of like what drives me, like what motivates me, what makes me get up in the morning, what makes me want to push myself, what makes me want to do this. And just having that understanding. And it could be truly anything, and that's where like this openness and understanding that is important, because also understanding like what really serves you might not be important for someone, and that's all. I just think that's all just an important perspective to be mindful of.
Yeah, and I also like one of the things that we bond really well with is we talk about like the results, the evidence base, the data, but also having, this curiosity and open perspective to like learn something new. Because essentially that's what happened with CrossFit for you, is just like this opportunity to try and learn something new. Because sometimes the best data is the data you experience for yourself, and be able to really integrate that in a way for you to make meaning of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, you definitely set a standard with that for us, and that's something we truly appreciate, man. So I think we just want to just end it off here with two things. One, what advice would you give to somebody if they were going to start their CrossFit journey? What advice would you give to them? And then, what is this idea of just show up? What does it mean to you?
For me, it's well, it's harder to measure like when you're doing CrossFit, because other type of workouts, you're measuring you're measuring weights and reps or time, distance, that sort of thing. You're not as focused on the numbers, but like I can feel the difference. I can see the difference in my body. So like that part is a little different. It's harder to measure.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. I mean, the mental aspect is a big thing for me. That's what I get out of it most. Like even if I got no results, I'd still want to be in the gym every day.
Mm-hmm. And what advice would you give to somebody if they're hearing that? Like, what would you say to them? If as they're just starting, would you categorize that? And I think this is good, and I'll help you out with it. Maybe like, don't worry about the numbers. Think about the process.
Yeah, you have to think long term.
Yeah.
You're chipping away at it, and some people are starting here, or some people are at a higher level. You have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about long term. So it's not like you're starting an exercise program a week before spring break. It's a long journey.
Yes.
Your body takes time to adapt.
Love that. Yeah, that's exactly what we try to help promote to the community. It's
not a fad.
Yeah, we're really trying to allow people to think in a way where, look, stepping on the scale is great. We want to track these physiological and biological markers in our wellness and our health. But sometimes it's just sensations that you go through on through the journey that you're like, I notice a difference. Like I feel a difference. It's translating into other areas of my life. And so, yeah, we appreciate that testimony. And yeah, super grateful for you, dude. All right. Love you, man. All right, Joe, you got anything?
No, man, I'm just super grateful for you. You're a very just grounding presence at the gym. Appreciate you showing up every day, and I just appreciate you trusting us. That's the biggest thing. Like that's the most important thing we ask of every member is like trust our process. Like, with Marco's programming, like trust what we're doing because everything, it's for a reason, every aspect of it. And like you're someone who, even if you're out of your comfort zone, like you trust it. And I appreciate that.
Awesome. Well, guys, that's pretty much it. All right. We got Corey here again. Corey Bradford, 6:15 a.m. or you rarely see him at a later class during the day. But you will see him on an occasional weekend. We do sometimes get him on a Saturday when his work allows it. And again, you're going to know Corey when you see him in class, which is really the best part about it. It really speaks volume to our diversity, right? The whole inclusion of having a unique group of individuals that come into CrossFit OFP on a day-to-day basis. So thank you so much, guys. All right, again, continue to stay tuned in. We got some really exciting things in this upcoming week, particularly this Saturday. We have our workshop with Park. We have our Mind Over Matter Wellness. I will be assisting Park with teaching the yoga. He's going to do the pods. We're going to do some breath work. That's from 9 to 11. We will still have a 7:45 to 8:45 a.m. class for endurance. And then Sunday, we got Run Club with Coach Joe. We got our boot camp. That'll be back in action here on this Sunday. So, yeah, we pretty much got a full weekend ahead of you with our workouts. And just like the weekly programming, again, continue to just show up. Stay with the process through the rest of the summer. We only have about another 5 more weeks here. So we're getting close to the fall, and it's going to be time to ramp things up when we get there. So we'll see you in class. Again, this is a Just Show Up podcast. We'll see you next time. Peace.